The little girl ran barefoot down the empty road, her tiny frame trembling as the sound of roaring engines approached from behind. Dust rose around her as a group of leather-jacketed bikers turned the corner, their chrome motorcycles gleaming in the evening sun. She stopped in the middle of the road, raised her little hands, and screamed, "Please! Please arrest me!" Her tear-streaked face glistened in the dying light. And for a moment, even the toughest biker among them froze. Before we go further into this powerful, emotional story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please take a second to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread real stories that remind the world that compassion still exists. The bikers, part of a group known in town as the Steel Brothers, had seen many things on the road, accidents, heartbreaks, and even fights. But never a little girl, no older than 8, begging to be arrested. Their leader, a heavily built man named Ray, cut the engine and signaled the others to stop. The silence that followed was heavy and strange. The little girl's chest rose and fell quickly as she looked at the bikers with pleading eyes, as if she'd just found the last bit of hope left in the world. Ray slowly stepped off his motorcycle, his boots crunching on the gravel. He knelt down to her level. Her dress was torn, her hair tangled, and her arms bore faint bruises. He asked softly what she meant, why she wanted to be arrested. The girl hesitated, then whispered something that made the toughest men there go still. "Because if you arrest me, you'll have to take me away from that house. Please, I can't go back." The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. None of them were police officers. They were a brotherhood of men who had seen dark days and turned their lives around through the roads they traveled. But Ray's gut twisted. This wasn't just some child having a tantrum. Something was deeply wrong. They offered her water and a sandwich from one of their bags, but she refused to eat, saying she'd get punished if she ate without permission. That sentence broke something inside Ray. He knew that kind of fear. He had grown up with it. Behind his leather and tattoos was a man who had spent his childhood running from fists, from anger, from a home that never felt like one. He saw that same fear now in this girl's shaking hands. He gently asked her name. "Lily," she said in a whisper. She was small for her age, with deep hazel eyes that looked far older than 8. As she sat on a rock by the roadside, she began to tell her story, haltingly, as if every word carried the weight of memory she wished she could forget. Lily lived in a rundown house at the edge of town with her stepfather and mother. Her real father had died when she was 3, and her mother had remarried soon after. But life hadn't gotten better. Her stepfather, a man named Hank, was known around town for his temper and his drinking. He worked odd jobs, often came home late, and when things didn't go his way, he'd take it out on anyone nearby. Her mother tried to protect Lily, but over the years even she had given up, drowned in the hopelessness that filled their home. The night before, Lily had accidentally broken a glass cup while cleaning. Her stepfather had exploded in anger. Her mother had begged him to stop, but he locked her in another room and turned on Lily instead. She ran out through the back door, barefoot, clutching a small stuffed bunny that was now torn and dirty in her hands. She ran until she couldn't see the house anymore. And then she kept running. Because in her mind, the farther she went, the safer she might be. When she saw the bikers on the highway, she remembered what her stepfather always shouted. "You'll end up in jail one day, just like trash kids like you deserve." That's why she begged them to arrest her. Because in her little heart, even jail sounded safer than home. The bikers stood silent, the only sound being the wind brushing through the tall grass beside the road. One of them, Ben, wiped his eyes discreetly. He had a daughter Lily's age. Another, Jake, clenched his jaw, muttering something about monsters who hurt kids. But Ray, he just looked at her, his face hard yet filled with pain. He knew they couldn't just walk away. Ray asked where she lived, but Lily shook her head in fear. "If he finds me," she whispered, "he'll hurt my mom too." Ray knelt again, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "Then he's not going to find you. Not tonight. Not ever again." The bikers formed a protective circle around Lily as they decided what to do. They couldn't take her to the police right away. Small towns like theirs sometimes turned a blind eye to domestic issues, especially when the abuser was connected like Hank. But Ray had an idea. The Steele brothers had a reputation in town, not for crime, but for protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Years ago, they had helped fund repairs for a local orphanage and often escorted bullied kids safely to school. They had built trust through action, not words. They brought Lily to their clubhouse, a large converted warehouse at the edge of the forest, filled with bikes, tools, and old couches. One of the bikers' wives, Maria, was there preparing food. When she saw Lily, she immediately understood. Without a word, she led her inside, bathed her, and dressed her in clean clothes that once belonged to her niece. For the first time in years, Lily felt warmth that wasn't fear. She ate quietly, tears streaming down her face as Maria stroked her hair gently. Meanwhile, Ray called an old friend, Officer Daniels, a retired cop who had once been part of the same rough crowd before turning his life around. Daniels still had friends in the department and knew how to handle delicate cases. When Ray told him everything, Daniels promised to come by that evening. As night fell, Lily sat outside the clubhouse, wrapped in a blanket, looking up at the stars. Ray joined her, handing her a small cup of hot chocolate. She looked at him and asked softly, "Do you really think I can be safe?" Ray took a deep breath. "I don't think, kid. I know you will." Daniels arrived soon after, his police car blending quietly into the shadows. He listened carefully as Lily recounted everything again, her trembling voice breaking when she described the beatings, the nights without food, and the way her mother would cry silently through the walls. Daniel's face hardened. He promised her she'd never have to go back there again. Within hours, social services were contacted. Lily's mother was found the next morning, bruised and weak but alive. When she learned Lily was safe, she broke down in tears. Hank was arrested that same day, his arrogance fading when he realized the community, the same people he thought were too scared to speak, had finally turned against him. For the next few weeks, Lily stayed with Maria and her husband, who were part of the biker family. The club members visited every day, bringing her toys, books, and even taking her on small, safe rides around the area. Just short trips that made her laugh again. Her laughter, once silenced by fear, became a sound that filled their clubhouse like music. But what moved everyone most was how the bikers, men once judged by society for their rough looks and past mistakes, became the protectors of a child who had been invisible to the world. They didn't need badges to do the right thing, just hearts that remembered pain and refused to let another soul suffer it. Months later, when the court finally gave Lily's mother full custody and protection, the Steele brothers stood outside the courthouse waiting. Lily ran to Ray, hugging him tightly. "You really did arrest me," she said, smiling through her tears. "You arrested me from the bad place." Ray laughed softly, his eyes glistening. "Yeah, kid," he said, lifting her up, "and I don't plan on letting you go back there ever again." The crowd around them, bikers, officers, townspeople, clapped and cheered. What began as a cry for help had turned into a movement of compassion that shook an entire community. From that day on, the Steele brothers made it their mission to look out for children and families in distress. They started a program called Ride for Hope, visiting shelters, schools, and orphanages, spreading awareness about abuse and offering support to those who needed it most. Lily, as she grew older, became their youngest ambassador, a symbol of courage and survival. Years later, on the anniversary of that fateful day, the bikers gathered again at the same stretch of road where it all began. Lily, now a teenager with a bright smile and confident eyes, stood beside Ray as they watched the sunset. She handed him a small bracelet she'd made, carved with the words, "Hope rides with us." Ray looked at it, then at her. "You've come a long way, kid," she nodded. "So have you." The engines roared to life behind them, echoing across the open road, a sound that once meant fear but now stood for strength, unity, and hope. And as the bikes rolled out into the evening light, Lily smiled. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from the past. She was riding toward a future she could finally call her own. If this story touched your heart, Please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind the world that kindness can save lives. Before you go, comment below with one word that describes what this story made you feel. Hope? Strength? Love? We'd love to read your thoughts, because sometimes it only takes one act of courage, one kind heart, and one moment of compassion to change someone's entire life.